go into Mekkatorque's workshop here. And Mekkatorque's workshop, guys, for those who never maybe seen the show, is the segment where we come up with our own cards, and then we, just whether we think that's good for Hearthstone now, maybe, or something that we'd like to see in the future that helps with that. And all right, so me and Noxious have a couple of them. Gosh, Noxious, I really like Noxious. So, all right, we're gonna end. We're gonna end
I don't know
strong.
why you like my cards so much, but
I like the Worgen's cool for some reason. I just like it. But anyways, all right. So why don't we talk about this Silver Hand Champion, which is something I came up with originally, but then Noxious helped me evolve it into something better. Makes more sense. Okay, and it's kind of like what I was saying too when I was talking about the Paladin deck. It has a lot to do with just how do we get Silver Hands to be a little bit more relevant, or maybe just like the hero power to be a little bit more relevant to the class itself. And so this is Silver Hand Champion. It's a 6-drop. It's an epic card, 4/4 body. Your minions have +1/+1 for each Silver Hand recruit on your side of the battlefield. Is it plus? Yeah, it's +1/+1. Yeah. So basically, if you develop the board, if you develop the board, yeah,
it works.
If you develop the board with Silver Hand recruits and you play this card, then you get like a huge buff like to the entire board. So it's pretty powerful, but again, I think it's synergistic with the hero power and some of the other cards like just some Silver Hand recruit related cards. So what do you guys think? Actually, Orange, what do you think? Since me and Noxious have already seen this card.
I'm seeing this card for the first time. This is just like this is a very high risk, high reward card.
Mm-hmm.
This is the reward for playing this card is just like if you have 4, maybe even 3 Silver Hand recruits on board, you're pretty much just like winning the game outright. But it's also, when it's bad, it's a 6 mana 4/4. I think this card is completely fine because I don't know, dealing with 1/1s is it's like it's not that efficient for Paladin to keep hero powering and just like try to make this strong, because it's usually very easy to deal with a bunch of 1/1s, and especially this is 6 mana card. It's not like it's just like you can see this coming. It's like it's not just coming out of anywhere. 6 mana is quite a lot, and your opponent has a lot of time to respond to your Silver Hand recruits.
Yeah.
Before this comes down on the field. So I actually think that this card may look very flashy, but it might not be that good given the cards they have right now.
Quartermaster, right?
Yeah.
It's basically like a Quartermaster.
It's basically a Quartermaster, yeah.
I'm putting
basically a Quartermaster. If you get something like Must for Battle, discard them.
So I should have led with the Stubborn Scene. So I kind of showing both of them at the same time, because they're related in a way, and the whole theme again is to try to get the Silver Hand recruits viable again. And yeah, without the Quartermaster, I think that it's something that's missing. So it's in a way bringing that whole theme back, but in just a more full way. So the Stubborn Steed is actually a 4 mana. It's a Paladin card again. It's a rare card. It's a 4/3 body. At the end of your turn, summon a 1/1 Silver Hand recruit. So
I really like that card. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. That card is really well designed.
Yeah.
It's like quite powerful, but absolute but you still want to like run it together with like that it's synergized with for it to reach its max potential. You probably wouldn't just like run it on its own like Pilot the Shredder.
Yeah,
it's like it seems to have like that sweet spot of power and synergy. Like I really like that card,
and that's kind of where I'm trying to go with, because that's honestly what happened to Shaman, to help it kind of get over a hump, or at least just meld a lot of things that have been going on with Shaman. And I feel like Paladin is in a little bit need of that too. And it just takes a couple cards just summoning some more Silver Hand recruits, and I think they could, it could be interesting.
Yeah, I've got an idea for a card if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
12 mana, 8/8, Silver Hand Giant. For each Silver Hand recruit you summon this game, it costs 1 less. I mean, the point is like one of the big ways Hearthstone compensates for a bad effect is they just give you like a crazy tempo swing because of a mana discount. So it's cheap. Like, it's better to have like an average stat minion for super cheap than have a super high stat minion. Like a 10 mana 30/30 doesn't matter more than a 10 mana 10/10, right? So like if you want to make your card good in Hearthstone, you lower its cost. That's it. So the only way to make those effects work out is, like, let's say there was a spell that said it does something based on the number of Silverhand recruits, or it costs less per Silverhand recruit, like a Solemn Vigil based on Silverhand recruits. Cards like these could be kind of interesting.
It just doesn't make any sense if you have a spell. I mean, a spell would be pretty difficult. That's why I was trying to think of a minion.
It would be a pretty bad spell, granted, but they could make it an epic paladin spell that says, let's say a 3-mana spell that reads draw 2 cards, or 4-mana spell, draw 2 cards, and it costs 1 less for each Silverhand recruit. So if you have 1 on the board, it's an Arcane Intellect, and if you have 2 Silverhand recruits, it becomes 2 mana, and it keeps getting better. Stand Against Darkness, you can play this right away and draw on your with the initiative. So the only way you can make Hearthstone cards work, or like archetypes and synergies, seems to be right now through cost reduction in some way, shape, or form. Something has to be super cheap.
That has always been the case. Like the most powerful thing to do in I haven't played every TCG ever, but in like both Magic and Hearthstone, the most powerful thing to do is cost reduction. Like that's the reason why we see innervate, preparation, coin, Emperor Forest, like all these cards are just like ridiculously broken, and all of them have like this one thing in common, which is that they're based on cost reduction. It's just such an insane effect. In card games. And we see that Thing from Below is exactly like what you're talking about now, Noxious. We see that being really powerful, but I don't think that Thing from Below is on the overpowered side, like it is together with all of the other Shaman cards, but not on its own. But that is absolute, and that doesn't mean that like you should go nuts about creating cost reduction cards. The opposite, you should be very, very careful about what cards that mess around with cost reduction are being printed.
I actually think Things from Below is a little bit on the broken side of things, but that's just
when rotation hits, you'll notice how bad it gets because Totem Golem's out. Like you'll notice that you won't struggle. Well, depending on what they print, but the idea is, if Totem Golem's out, then suddenly you don't struggle to deal with their totems.
That's true.
And
that's true.
Then that 5/5, even though it might suck on like what really hurts when Shaman plays is like they wipe your board, they spend a bunch of mana, and then they have 0 mana left over, and you see them hover over a card, you're like, what the fuck can they play here? And they just drop Thing from Below, and you're like, crap. Now suddenly I can't work my Flame Strike, or anything really works out at that stage.
I really, really like Thing from Below from a same perspective, but it was just like having it in the same format, Totem Golem and unnerfed Tusker Totemic. That is not a healthy thing. But that is more the problem of Totem Golem and Tusker Totemic than Thing from Below.
Sure. Okay. All right, why don't we move on to a priest card that Noxious had? Dark Ritual. Yeah, it's always a priest card, guys. It's always a priest.
PTSD.
PTSD. 2 mana, epic card. It's a spell. Draw the next Shadow Word in your deck. Deal damage equal to its cost to your enemy hero. All right, so Shadow Word.
That's basically a Mind Blast, right?
Yeah.
The Shadow Word is very broad. It's basically Shadow Word Horror, Shadow Word Pain, or Shadow Word Death. So it's a tutor in the terms of Magic the Gathering where you get to fetch a card of your choice. Granted, you don't choose which one is going to be next in your deck, but if you only play Shadow Word Death, for instance, then you can fetch them with Dark Ritual. And because you deal some extra damage to the face, it gives you a way, if you're playing something of like a mid-range aggro priest, to thin your deck out of bad cards while dealing damage to the enemy face at the same time. I think this is overall a pretty bad card, all things considered, because of the fact that it doesn't deal enough damage to be good in aggro, and it doesn't draw fast enough to be good in the slower decks. But I think there's a toolkit for Priest that you could build where it reaches critical mass, where they can draw enough, and this thins the deck just enough that the card draw becomes better, and then the damage output can come in.
Yeah.
But it's not like a standalone tool they can add to Priest right now and say, I fixed the class, there we go, fuck it. Spawn a Shadows Priest is a new meta. This would be like a corner of that type of deck, I think, where they play Mind Blast, and they have a way to make it so stupidly strong with Dark Ritual. Like, Mind Blast is broken. The issue is we don't have the surrounding tools to make it broken. The moment we get to the critical mass of face damage spells in Priest, I think we could start complaining about it. Like, you think Hunter is bad with Kill Command? Wait until people Mind Blast your face, for 10 on turn 4 after you've been pounded down from Shadow Bombers and the likes. Good equivalents to that, but yeah, this would be like one of those tools. I think it's just interesting.
It sounds ridiculous what you're saying about Mind Blast, but you're completely right.
It is.
It's just like that is not that world I want to live in, where like mind blasting people in the face is good because that card is too powerful.
Really
About this card, I think this is like quite like it depends on what tools are available. If there's like a new shadow word or something, this could be good. But like as stands right now, I think this is like pretty unplayable. Like the deck you would need to play this in is like a priest deck that cares about this face damage. This is not a good card if it just looks for a shadow word card. Like even if it searches up like one of your 2 shadow word deaths, if that's the only shadow word you have in your deck, that is not something you would pay 2 mana for. Which means that what do we need out of this card? Yeah, we also need the second effect to be relevant, which is the face damage. And right now, that is just like not a thing. I mean, I know this is kind of like I'm only looking at the current state of Hearthstone, but right now that is a thing that's going to be very, very hard to make relevant. And in that case, this card is out. But it's like kind of cool because it also opens up like the design space. So like as if you said, like if they go a more like shadowy, more aggressive route with Priest, this could work. Although it's still like quite a big tempo loss. So
I mean, imagine a world where we have a card that says your shadow words and power words are free. You know, Cloaked Huntress level where you don't pay their cost, right? Then suddenly drawing it, dealing damage, and playing Shadow Word Death in 1 turn off of that Cloaked Huntress for Breeze. It's less bad.
It adds more consistency.
It fits in like
a
future, as you said.
I mean, I think generally it might even be. I don't know, like this kind of card, regardless of the face damage or not, it could fit into an actual current control priest too. It might be too expensive though, but you know, control priest. It would
have to be 1, I think.
It would have to be 1. The thing is that you know it does have synergy with pyro, you know, of course, and just cheap spells and priest like have value.
I don't know,
and value with pyro. So I think a 1 mana spell would work here, and you know one of the elements of priest or one of the weaknesses of priest is all the removal is situational at this point. And a lot of times you know you can rock, you know, you have this like games are super easy when the cards come, and then games that just get stomped when they don't. So a card that does search for one of those key components is a useful card.
There are 2 things I wanted. Like this is dangerous territory, but I mean we're only speculating, right? So that I would like to see to this card that would make it way more like interesting and like err on the like let's actually play this card. My opinion, which is like that's a very easy fix to any card. But I mean I think lowering this mana cost to 1 is not totally unreasonable. That is the first thing. I mean, cost reduction. We're talking again. Yeah. The second thing, a little bit more interesting, is that like you actually get to choose which shadow word you get.
Yeah, discover.
Discover a shadow word. What about that? 2 mana. What if I told you 2 mana?
Sure, just give you an extra one. That's the same. Yeah, that'd be good.
That would be really cool because that would actually help with the problem that Priest has. That all of its removal spells are situational.
Yeah, exactly.
This would allow you to get like the shadow word for the right situation and would mean that your control priest should play less situational cards. That's a great idea.
It's great for Elise.
Discover a shadow word. Yeah. I mean, it's still a tempo loss. Like if you want to kill that flame with faceless, you have to pay those 5 mana, 2 mana for discard, and then 3 mana for shadow word death.
Playing priest is all about losing tempo, dude.
I think discovery might be the way to help.
That's a pretty cool card idea. Like we could even remove the mana cost to face class.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't even matter actually to me. But
yeah. That is just like
I think it has synergy with Elise too. If you were just to discover it, you'd get another card too. So
well, you might as well turn it into something, right?
Yeah, I mean, either you're going to use it,
either you're
going to use it, or it's going to become another legendary at the end.
Okay,
you know,
so like you sit on it until you actually have a reason to get it. Okay, sure.
Yeah, so I mean, I like it. I think it ups the percentage of priest just by finding these cards.
If you remove the damage component and you make it just 1 mana discover a shadow word, like it's playable. The issue is I think it's kind of boring. Like it's more interesting than the shit they've given to priest for a long time is, granted, but it's like it's lacking that extra kick. It's kind of like, you know how Embrace the Shadows is on the verge of
one-dimensional.
good if it just drew a card, or if it was 1 mana.
Sure,
But like
sure.
even at 1 mana, it would still be boring because it's missing like a component of complexity to it. I think just adding these cards that have an effect and then another effect on top, so you can play them in multiple archetypes. Like that's something I want to see in Hearthstone. Like we have too many one-dimensional cards that do. No, I'm not even talking about choose one because that's boring. Even like I want cards that do two things, but one of them is less relevant to you, but the same thing for another deck is just so much better. I don't know. I love those effects.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of force dynamic. I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right about the priest cards and some of them not having dynamic, and we force some dynamic value by putting Wild Pyro in it, right? Because Wild Pyro gives you an extra value every time you cast it, or cast a spell. And I'm kind of been accustomed to thinking that way at this point. That's why I'm like, if this is a 1 mana spell, then yeah, this works because you're able to again have a possible additional removal when you wouldn't have it normally, or at least more consistent removal than just more situational. All right, let's talk about the Hunter card you have, and this is the card I like the most. This is the card.
I don't know why you like it that much.
Because it's like Halloween, like the whole, obviously the Overwatch Halloween stuff, and just Halloween generally, and this kind of falls into it. So, so this is a 2 mana Hunter spell. It's called Worgen Bite, and it's a rare card. Choose a minion. It becomes a beast and gains +2/+2. And right now, given just the tools and whatnot, we only have very selective things that are receive a lot of value if it's a beast like Houndmaster and Kill Command or whatnot. But I think the ability to turn anything into a beast is like opens up so much potential for beast centric design, and maybe some of those spells that were in Druid before, like those type of things, if they were to have them in Hunter, or we had this card in Druid or whatnot, whatever it is, you would actually see more viability in all those cards. Instead of just having to add just gross beasts, like really low valued beasts, which is what we have to do in some instances right now.
I think the buff is kind of the relevant part of it, because most hunters might already play like it might already be a beast. You have a carrion grub, you buff it. It's like
that's good too.
You're the flame plus Mark of Yasharj, except now you don't draw a card on top, so it's like it's worse. But I don't think the upside of turning something into a beast is going to be relevant until Blizzard pushes the whole
now
beast envelope more.
Yeah, not this moment, but it would just allow for a lot more different cards that have beasts, synergy to be made right now.
Okay, so what I see is that if you run this card to enable beast synergies in a deck that may not play that many beasts, which is kind of a weird spot, because if you're not running that many beasts, you cannot, you want the beast upside to be a thing, right? You're not gonna run a card that says 2 mana +2/+2. So you want it to this beast ups, turning it into a beast has to be relevant. But if we don't play enough beasts, because we clearly wouldn't need the beast upside if we were already running enough beasts, are we gonna run this is gonna sound so weird, but are we gonna put a Houndmaster in our deck that does not need
no, I think so. I think we should think of it in this way, there are certain beasts in Hunter right now that are just super good, and we play them no matter what. Savannah Highmane, right? And you can even say maybe Infested Wolf, and we get beasts from Animal Companion and whatnot. Just
let's not mention.
Okay, maybe not Infested Wolf.
Right?
It's not great. It's not great, but it's better than some of the other ones. But the whole point is that this would allow you to play cards in that type of deck that are regularly just very high value cards.
There is one card that this deck, this card makes me very excited to get it with, and that is Argent Squire.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Iron Hunter is the nuts.
Right. That's ridiculously good, right?
That is one thing I can think of. But then again, you have to hit a very sweet spot between beasts and non-beasts, and it's kind of weird and still justify this 2 mana just +2/+2 card with some added upside, just because we're playing a kind of weird deck.
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make it 3 mana +3/+3 with the same effect. Does Hunter suddenly have enough 2-drops in their deck?
We don't need a 3 mana in Hunter. That's like
plus three plus
like
three is pretty busted though.
So
is a huge amount.
Like
Like a middle ground.
it curves. Yeah, then it curves perfectly into like your non-beast 2-drops.
Really good.
Into Houndmaster.
Oh, I see.
That's a good suggestion.
Okay,
that means we can all of a sudden play things like Flame Juggler, and well, there's
honestly
a great 2-drop. But like, if there was a great non-beast 2-drop.
If there was, if the egg was back, like the Nerubian egg was back or something like that, you could.
It opens up a lot of
tools.
It's funny that 3 sounds good, but I think 3 is where it would have to be more than +2. Like that's what I was saying, right? Mark of Isharge is just so much better in Druid than this is in Hunter that it's like it's not even a close call. Which one is better? This one has more flavor, but I think like having it fill up a role in Hunter that isn't filled yet would be nice, and that would be in the 3 slot where they already have so much stuff they already auto cram in their deck, where you'd play this because it curves after your 2/2. Like if you have, let's say, a Kindly Grandmother, right now if you buff it by +2/+2 on turn 3, you haven't really done shit. But if you play Kindly Grandmother on 2 and then you curve it and make it a 4/4, that when it dies summons a 3/2, they flip a fucking table because they're scrambling to deal with it, and then they get dropped a Houndmaster on the face. That's a very different world. So I think 3 mana +3/+3 with the beast upside that basically doesn't matter would be, I think, where I'd be inclined to go to rebalance this. But I love the flavor of it.
Yeah,
I definitely like it too. It just be again like I'm just excited about like what kind of just what type of runway it opens for just more designs, because I just the beast right now I feel like we're just it's very limited. What?
Okay, you have to give me precise. So just talk. I'll make a card in the meantime.
Oh God! All right. I was just gonna say I just think it just gives a little bit more runway as to like having good beast cards just generally, instead of having to design them or put them in the common set or the basic set and whatnot. I think he's making something. All right. I guess you'll show it to me. Actually, while we wait, Orange, why don't you talk a little bit about your run in WESG?
Oh, sure. Can I put on spot? No, I can. So VSG was played this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
For those that have no clue what VSG is, and I don't blame you because it was kind of like they didn't really promote it all that well. But basically, every country in Europe, there are American and Asian and African qualifiers this too, but like this for the European region, each country had qualifiers per country, like region based. Like Sweden had one qualifier, Finland had one, Norway, Italy, Spain, etc., etc.
Sure.
Each had their national qualifiers, whereas depending on how big your country is within, I don't know what parameters used for that, but like Sweden had 2 spots, for example, where Spain only had 1.
So it's like the ratio based on the amount of people.
Yeah. No, it wasn't. I don't think it was population, because Sweden should not have 2 in that case. I think it's more a thing, maybe like how big they are within the game.
Okay, sure.
Because like Sweden, Germany had 2, at least, but like totally open qualifiers that were held online, and then like the top player after a single elimination bracket got to go to this European finals held in Kyiv this weekend. We were 20 players that qualified for this, and top 8 in this tournament goes through to the world finals that are being held in China either later this year or early next year. Not announced yet when it is. To play in a 24-man tournament, 8 from Europe, 6 from America, 6 from Asia, 4 from Africa. In a 24-man tournament with $400,000 prize pool, so kind of a big deal.
4 from Africa? Real? That's a first.
Yeah, I'm just as surprised as you are.
Yeah. It's like people have computers. Yeah, they do. They do chat.
Did I say that? Did I say that at all? I seriously have never heard of anybody taking qualifiers from Africa. That's great. That's great.
That's all I know. I didn't really know there was a scene there. But so the European finals were held, and after that was being played out, we have like quite a good European squad actually that's going to China. It's me, Six, and Bunny Hopper that finished in the top 3.
Oh.
We also have Nyria going. Then there's the other Swedish player. His name is Fluffy. He doesn't have all the results yet, but I've known him for quite some time. He's a good player. He just needs to play more tournaments, and eventually he's gonna break out. He's a really, really good player. We have LB Dutch Boy that some people may have heard about. A guy named Corvus, and then I forget the Spanish player's name.
Okay, cool.
He's a cool dude. So those
when
8 of us are. It's not announced yet.
Okay.
The rumors are mid-December or early January. The American finals are being held quite soon. I think it's not this weekend, but the weekend after. I think, not 100% sure. And we have like the players there are Frozen, Soleil, Talion, Impact. There's a bunch of good players in that one too. So it looks like it's gonna shape up to be a really good World Finals in China later.
Okay.
I hope we get like some broadcasting of it on the Western side.
Yeah. No, they've like Starladder organized it, but apparently it was
cool.
like
then we're certainly going to get something.
Hopefully for the European finals, it's like still this Chinese company that is the one funding all of this, and they just like apparently from what I heard from the admins, the reason why it was not, I guess, well advertised or like well produced as other tournaments was just because they have been given a very limited amount of money to do this with. That's probably going to change for the World Finals, and I expect it to be a very good broadcast from China later on. And it's also like it's not only for Hearthstone. Like they had here in Kiev, they had CS:GO, Dota, and I don't think they
need to promote this thing like a lot better, because like I did see, you know, I mean, honestly, I probably wouldn't known much about it unless, you know, I didn't see you tweeting about it, you know. So they need to do a way better job of that, especially if they're going to so much lengths and putting so much money into it. It's like I'd like to get something in return, right?
It was also quite unfortunate that the last call was the same weekend, but there was a lot to ask from production.
Yeah. Cool.
I don't think it's not really Starladder's fault.
All right, cool. You making a card? Are you done making that card yet, dude?
It's in the documents. It's
is it?
Question mark.
Whoa, what is this? Okay, let me see this. Okay, let me just show it on the.
You wanted beast synergy, baby? I've got you covered. We wanted beast synergy.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Can I get hired by Blizzard? Do you think I can get hired by Blizzard with this idea?
That's amazing. 1 mana beastly claws. A common card. So 1/3/2 attack if you control a beast.
I'm out. Goodbye.
Wow. I mean, a 1 mana 1/3 weapon that gives you +2 attack conditionally sounds really, really good and well thought out. What I like about it too is that it's not like easy to get a beast, so it makes it even more skill demanding because you have to build your deck around it. Kind of like, you know, Spirit Claws, right? You have to build your deck around spell damage. You have to play Kobolds. You have to play Malagos. You probably even play Master of Ceremonies in it. So I think with this card, I've shown my true mastermind identity, and I will join Blizzard's team. 100%.
That's synergy.
I can't wait. That sounds interesting.
That's synergy.
You forgot to mention the part with Shaman, where you just like are very skilled at pressing your hero power.
That's what I'm saying. I think it requires a lot of skill.
Makes it even harder. It's even harder for Hunter.
Crazy decisions to make, man. Do you like turn 1, turn 2 hero power to win 25% of your games, or do you not?
Oh god, I love rolling the dice.
I love rolling the dice. God, brutal,
Orange
man.
Knows what it is.
Brutal. All right, let's take some questions, guys. Let me see if we've got any on Twitter. If not, go ahead and tweet your questions, or not tweet. Type your questions in Twitch chat, and we'll take some of those. I don't think we have anything on Twitter right now, so let's take some in the chat here. And let's see. Hero power should have a 25% chance of summoning a 0/1 beast with stealth.
I like that. Gives you Hellmaster buffer.
God.
You can use that for kill command enabling. I mean, hell, I'd go as far as saying 25% chance to just summon Cat Trick. So it's a secret. No one knows what it is, and then they have to play around another layer of it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Cooler.
Any questions, guys? Come on. I'm surprised we don't have any questions today. But I'll give you guys a couple minutes. If not, then so be it. We'll just wrap up. No big deal.
Yeah, sure.
So Last Call. Who's playing Last Call this week?
It's I have no idea.
Gosh, it's so hard.
Frozen, right? I think I hope Frozen posted some troll deck list earlier today, but I'm not. Let's see if he confirmed. So Frozen posted a lineup earlier today, which was like, so this is the lineup, which I guess it refers to Last Call, where it has like some Tink Master Overspark and Soft Paladin, some Renolock, Cafoon Druid, then we Camel Hunter and Priest.
Okay.
Frozen posted that lineup on Twitter.
Very good lineup.
I cannot
I would not take that with a grain of any salt.
This is such a fine line between playable decks and decks that are so bad. And we've seen people bring some very bad lineups. Like, I am not sure what to take from this. Okay, no, never mind. It's Troll. It has a sideshow spell eater in the Priest. Never mind. It's Troll. Okay, good.
Okay, so we do have a question from... this is a really light color. Let me see. Kalman? He asked, question, what do you think about RDU's tournament format that he suggested?
Oh, yeah.
That was interesting. It was like a hybrid between Last Row Standing and Conquest. Well, rather a hybrid between Conquest and something else, right?
It's banning matchups, right? You basically ban matchups instead of just banning an entire class from your opponent. And I don't know. I mean, it's very... it's very complicated. It's complicated to even convey to the audience, and that generally isn't a good thing. I mean, I think in theory it's not bad. I think it does eliminate fewer matchups or fewer combinations of classes than what we see currently. But I think it would just be hard to convey that to the audience, or at least, it's usually you want something simple when it comes to format and not too complex. And that I think crosses the complexity line just a little bit.
I think one of the big issues with the idea as well is that, so here's what Last Row Standing does, right? It incentivizes building a lineup around specific matchups where you're hoping you can just replay your good deck, blah blah blah. And so you have like some strategy in terms of bringing more polarized decks. I think if you can ban a matchup, then suddenly bringing even more like decks that have an even more polarized array of matchups is even better. So like you bring Freeze Mage, right? You can ban that one matchup that is bad. So either people go super deep into like hyper aggro, and I ban, like one guy brings a super control deck, the other guy brings a super aggro, and they kind of ban the bad matchup between them both. And they still just end up flipping a coin that's like super lopsided in one or the other player's favor. Is how I see this panning out. But I don't know if that's what people would end up doing. Maybe they'll bring like a more nuanced lineup, I guess, to that type of stuff. I really don't know if that's good though.
It's I don't know. What do you think, Orange?
Okay, so that is that really how it works? I mean, you can only you want to. This wants you to bring more different, like Conquest is a format where you want to bring the same type of deck, like all your classes should do the same type of thing to beat one strategy. But that's not the thing in this format, right? Because you can just like ban a few of the matchups. So if you so it actually makes so you want to like bring a different variety of decks. I actually think this hits a pretty sweet spot when it comes to gameplay wise, just because of that. Like it's also, I think it's like a fine in between where they try to make it represent the ladder experience a little bit more. I think Conquest? Like taking away a matchup or two doesn't change that all too much. You anyway need to like bring well-rounded, just good, powerful decks, just as you do in ladder. Like taking away your matchup or two, I don't think that changes that.
Well, imagine I bring Freeze Mage, right? like I bring Freeze Mage and you bring whatever array you do. Like I ban the Warrior matchup 100%, so that's not happening with my Freeze Mage. And I'm gonna ban like your Hyper Aggro deck against my Freeze Mage. So suddenly my Freeze Mage is guaranteed to win. Another question is like, is your Warrior in your other deck? Like, do they ever have a good matchup against the rest? Like as good a matchup against the rest? Like I don't know that you would, because you'd be targeting my Freeze Mage in your you'd be hopefully trying to
no,
it's like a wait, isn't it played out like the Conquest format that you have to get a win with each of your
you do
decks?
You do have to get a
yeah. So then like sure, you can open up for your Freeze Mage by banning two of the matchups, but those are the only two bans you get. You still have your other two decks that you need to worry about, and you're not getting any matchups out of the way for those two. So I think sure, you can open up for your Freeze Mage, but I think you're giving up a lot of value.
Well, you get a huge EV on that one deck, I guess. Like I guess the question is, where do you want to put your EV plus, right?
Also like Freeze Mage is in any format gonna be a very weird deck. We see Freeze Mage, like if Freeze Mage is like just not a great thing in any format we've ever came across yet. Like Freeze Mage is weird in Lost Year Standing, it's weird in Conquest, it's probably gonna be weird here too.
These decks are public too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean they see the decks beforehand,
right? I suppose, yeah.
Oh,
that's just a thing that have been happening more and more in Hearthstone tournaments lately that I really do like, is that we are playing more with open deck lists.
Yeah, actually, maybe that format is cool. The RDU format. I'd have to try it out. Like best of fives with it, or best of sevens, or whatever.
Just one thing is that he, in that post he made, he goes into like some weird rant about getting to choose the coin or not. Like, let's just
Of what? Sorry.
It's just who gets the coin.
Who gets to choose who gets the coin? Like. I don't think that's the relevant part. I'm totally fine with the coin being 50. But the rest of the idea I think is really cool. And I played 0 matches of that format, but just that looking at that post, that sounds really good, and I want to try the format out. I actually can even say this, that there's an online tournament being held this weekend, and it was this close to being played in Destiny, which is the name that RDU gave the format.
Interesting.
They were very, very close at making Destiny, but it's like so last minute, so they choose to not make it. It was also about to be wild for a bit, but not enough people like that. Tournament organizers seem to have noticed this format, so I hope that soon there will be a Destiny tournament, because it's definitely an idea worth exploring, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely welcome any kind of formats or experimentation with the format. It's, I mean, it'd be cool to see. It'd definitely be cool to see. Okay, the next question would be it says Kay felt as, do you think they will change the HCT system for 2017? And yes, the answer is yes. And
yes,
they definitely would change. I mean, I can tell you,
it's not even a question.
It's already in the process of being changed.
Yes,
so
this weekend they did have a meeting with a lot of like the tavern organizers in different countries, where they told, I have not been told, but I know people that were at this meeting, where they told these people about the plans they have for the next HCT season and what they thought about it. So they are in like the final stages of finalizing the HCT system for next season. And I mean, they of course didn't get to say anything about it, but from what I could like tell, it sounded promising. From like how they talked about it, it sounded promising. Like they seemed happy afterwards.
I've definitely heard some things, guys.
I have not heard it whatsoever. I just know that we were at this meeting with Blizzard. They told us about their plans. It sounded good. That is literally what I've heard.
I've heard some things, and they sounded good too. So
it's changing. I'm so curious. I'm so curious. Like
Swedes can't participate anymore.
Yeah, exactly right.
Don't do this to me, Hearthstone.
Twitch Prime is only available in the UK, US, Germany, not in Sweden.
All right, last question.
And you can also only unlock Toronto that way.
Toronto, yeah, right. All right, last one. Hinsei asks, what theme would you guys like to see for the next set? Doesn't have to be Warcraft related.
Theme?
It doesn't have to be Warcraft related. I mean, pretty much everything has some Warcraft.
I want a spell-heavy expansion that is set in a like Darkmoon Fairish theme.
There you go. Darkmoon Fair would be great.
Darkmoon Fair as a theme would be good with a bunch of spell and synergy.
Seems kind of obvious for that to be one of the themes soon.
I would love scrying, dude. I would love to scry.
God, I would love scry too.
I would love scrying my crystal ball. You could call it like foresight or whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
Scry and Hearthstone.
Show me what cards are coming up.
For those that don't know, scry is a mechanic in Magic, which is that, say, a card says scry 2, which is that you get to look at the top 2 cards of your library and you get to put them in any order you choose on either top or bottom. So like you can choose one top, one bottom, both top, both bottom, things like that. I think that's a scary mechanic to play around with in Hearthstone, just because the deck size is smaller. So any given scry is gonna have like a much larger impact, because in the Magic the deck size is twice as big. But like anything that was like, say, quick shot with, instead of if your hand is empty, draw a card, was like quick shot, deal 3 damage, look at the top card, you may choose to discard it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like if things like that would be cool. Yeah, like you just introduce it as a hunter mechanic.
Yeah, like the tracking mechanic being basically like you draw, you don't like, you throw out. This could be literally that, honestly.
It also, if any class, like you could never implement that in Warlock, right? Then like fatigue would be too much of a problem. But in Hunter with the hero power, with the intention of like ending games early, that would be a pretty cool mechanic.
Priest, finding your shit as opposed to letting it find you. You know what? I've noticed that Priest is the only class with which I've had hands that are unwinnable. Like, there's this thing where there are classes and decks that have these hands that are unbeatable. Priests have hands that are unwinnable. Like, you literally cannot win with it, even if you curve out with those spells, they'll suck.
You mean any games against anything, or I mean, what do you mean? What do you mean exactly? Like, what kind of hands?
No, okay, you're a priest. You have Shadow Word Pain in your opening hand, and then you have Shadow Word Death, and you have like Shifting Shade, and you have Holy Nova. Even this curve sucks ass. Like, they're the only class with which I've had starting hands that are awkward because they're just high cost like everyone else, but they've had on-curve hands that are garbage. Like, there's the only class I've had that happen.
Yeah, because it's situational cards, crazy. Like spells and stuff.
The most unfair comparison in all of Hearthstone is when you compare Priest to Druid. Just they all have this situational cards, but the Druid cards all have like options to make them like not situational.
Why am I talking about this?
Like Wrath would be the Priest Shadow Word Pain, and like Wrath 3 damage would not be usable in like any situation. Just a Shadow Word Pain, but then you also get the option of like, okay, I can cycle this for a card whenever I want. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Wild Growth. Also like a card that should get really bad after turn 10. But no, instead I get to cycle it on turn 10. Living Roots, I mean, okay, 2 damage is like, Holy Smite is not good in any situation, but I can just get some minions out from it instead. It's like
2/1/1's pretty good for
like
1 mana.
All of Druid cards are basically Priest cards, but you just add the option of like always having them be playable.
So I think Scry would be great for Priest. That's the theme I want to see pushed. Just that mechanic would be nice, or at least that theme of Darkmoon Fair, at the very least.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, why don't we wrap up? We're coming on actually right at 2 hours or so. So great show. Lots to talk about. And unfortunately, Zalay guys won. Unfortunately. Or fortunately, it's my bad. So he obviously didn't get a chance to come.
I have to teach him how to become worse at Hearthstone. This is not acceptable.
Exactly. So he'll be back next week, guys. But Orange, man, pleasure having you on. It was great insight as always on the decks and everything.
It's really fun to be on by the time. I really do enjoy it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Any shout outs, or where can people find you?
Shout out to Team Alliance. I recently signed with a new team called Team Alliance. Big in the Dota scene. Don't know if people here have heard about them. But now they're starting up a Hearthstone section, which for the moment is me. We'll see what the future brings. And all of our sponsors, Monster Gaming, Steel Series.
Look around. You're supposed to have like a sheet next to your.
You guys I don't have this memorized yet. It's a new team. I'll get to it.
Exactly.
It's fine. You're forgiven.
Okay.
Are you just looking at the equipment you have around your room?
I was trying to see. I have one of my t-shirts laying on the bed. I was trying to. Okay.
Great moment.
Awesome. Noxious?
Shout out to Complexity as usual. You guys can find me on YouTube at Noxious JLHF or on Twitch at Noxious_HS when I stream, which hasn't been very frequent recently, and mostly I haven't been streaming much Hearthstone, interestingly enough. I do, however, I hope that BlizzCon just creates an upheaval in the Hearthstone world. Like that whatever they're announcing there has to change. Upheaval, I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, okay. I get what you mean.
Just like shift everything. If BlizzCon doesn't do that, I'm gonna be real sad.
Same.
I think we all I think we're all expecting it. It's just a matter of how much after BlizzCon. Will it be like a week after, like last time, or is it going to be a month after? Because we just got a release like 6 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago, or at least completed that release, right? And I mean, BlizzCon is 3.5 weeks away, so it won't be immediate. I'm assuming, but yeah, I hope so too. I hope there's big news announced, not just like an expansion. I hope there's a lot more stuff. They've just been saving up a bunch of stuff to tell us.
They always do, right?
Yeah.
That should be the case. I think it would be silly for them not to. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I'll round things out by thanking the two of you guys. Thank you to Orange and Noxious for being on today and having a great show. Thanks to everybody else for tuning in. And you can find the VODs on youtube.com/ChanManV shortly after the show. And it'll be on iTunes probably tomorrow. It's usually early the next day that it's available on iTunes. But you can catch it on other podcast apps like on Google Podcasts or like Stitcher and any of those things pretty soon after I post them tonight. So you can find them there. And anything else? I think. Oh, you know what? There was one thing I forgot. I keep forgetting to mention each week. There is this. It's a site called Have you seen this site? Hearthstonereplay.net. Did you actually see that? It. Dude, it's cool. Yeah, it's something that like came up like a few weeks ago, and I just forgot to totally forgot to mention it. But it's like a tool. It's like a simulating tool that allows you to basically get replays of your games. I mean, obviously it's not in the client, so you're not going to see it in the client, but they've made their own client that actually resims your games. So they actually, they save your games off of the, there is a log file that's generated on your client, just that's basically your game. So I think they do something with that just from a technical standpoint, and they're able to just recreate your games, and you can save it on their client and whatnot. And pretty cool tool, especially for pro players if you ever want to check it out.
That is something I found myself wishing for multiple times.
Yeah, it's hsreplay.net.
I've heard about it. It's just not acceptable that I haven't checked it out yet. So I'm definitely gonna do that. Probably just like after this.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I wanted to mention. I left it at the bottom of the notes for the last 3 weeks. I just completely forgot about it. So yeah, definitely check that out, guys. It's open source, made from the community. I think it's the same people that made Hearthstone Deck Tracker, which is something I use all the time. Right. Yeah. So so definitely check that out. And check us out next week, guys. So for Orange, Noxious, and myself, ChanManV, we'll see you next time. Later.